I call Ian McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, this is a pretty significant day for a large part of the lower Rangitāne electorate and of course for the people that live there. And I live on the line, I suppose you could say, if you get to if there is such a line and these sort of things between Ngāti Apa and Rangitāne. And my family have been intertwined with them since the 1840s. Pukipuk Lagoon, for instance, was a part of a piece of land that we leased off the Crown for some 100-odd years. So it's really quite an exciting opportunity, I think, both for my family to see what goes on with Rangitāne, but particularly for the people of Rangitāne, because I think it's progress. If you think about the early days of the Manawatu, the lower Manawatu was covered in flax. And if you think about Foxton, Foxton was built on flax. Much of the industry of the lower Manawatu and the history of the lower Manawatu is intertwined with flax. And so the fact that area is now part of an agreement and a lot of work that's been undertaken by the people of Rangitāne, by their cousins from Ngāti Kaupōta, around the Orua River and the work that's undertaken on the Manawatu River, it's really a forerunner in New Zealand, I think, to what we're going to see in the future with many partnerships in this kind of environmental management and the management of things that are very important to us. And I think that the Manawatu River Accord and the way in which that's been dealt with by all parties concerned is a significant example of how things can work extremely well. Speaker, I just want to acknowledge one or two people, and I know the Minister has acknowledged almost all of the important people of Rangitāne, but I want to speak about a couple in particular, and one was the late Ruth Harris. Now, it would be fair to say that I didn't always agree with Ruth and she didn't always agree with me, but that's just how she was, and I'm sure that many other people have experienced that in her. But I also want to acknowledge Danielle, who I think has held the vision of her mother and her family together and built an organisation that's achieved this outcome today. And I know, as many have said earlier, it was extremely hard work for them all. Now, none of these things happen easily. None of them happen easily in Parliament. None of them happen easily in the land of Rangitāne. And I want to acknowledge a couple of other people who I've had a lot to do with in my life, in Wirramu and Trieste Te Awiawi, who live on the banks of the Orua River at their home marae, Te Rangamario. And they have had their house flooded twice, completely demolished, in fact, twice in the last 12 years by that river. And you've got to wonder what would have happened, I suppose, in the early days, because those rivers must have flooded in the same way. Although, of course, as we play around with the environment, we do cause different effects. And I guess it's a really interesting example as to what's happened in the lower Manawatu, because it's a massive scheme, I suppose, to try and manage that river, very different land than it ever used to be. So I want to congratulate Rangitāne. I want to also congratulate Nook and his select committee on getting this bill through the House, the Minister on all the work that he's done to get to this point, and I look forward to the next few, well, I suppose it might only be a few in my case, but the next few years watching what happens with Rangitāne, and particularly in respect to the fact that we're liable to be neighbours, as the Tangimoana Forest was also part of land that my family leased in the early days, and so we'll see where we get to. So I want to congratulate you. I think it's fantastic progress for us, and I commend the bill to the House and look forward to the progress that we make in the future. Thank you, Mr Speaker.